Greetings, one and all. I'm Kerrik52, and I'm about to undertake the Caper of the Century and steal some knowledge from beyond. By which I mean go loot the library this episode, so I don't have to read like 7 books next episode. One of the books are also important. So I'm running the long way around here because I think the shade is guarding the front door. Oh, no. That room is in the dark. Want none of that. Save? Frame 1. Light. Drop. Then we run and check all of these bookcases. That's 1. That's 2. Oh lord. That's only 2 health. I can take it. Hey, there's a mechanism there. That's important for later. Found it. See ya, sucker. And now we're back. Time to read.
The Sons of the Sun and of the Shadows. Lieutenant Lope de Vega's account of his astounding travels to the land of the Aztecs.
Exciting.
Holy Christ! Cried Captain Cortez, astonished by the strange rite we beheld. We found the savages half naked. They were throwing balls of silver and gold at each other. They laughed as if demented, clearly maddened by some heathen drug. And yet, should one of them fail to catch the ball thrown in his direction, the poor devil was seized and dragged off to be sacrificed in their temple.
Almost as bad as football.
As we discovered, this frightful game was a ritual most holy to them, and symbolized the movement of the heavenly bodies. The dropping of a ball foretold a catastrophe. That is what the Aztecs believed, in their godless ignorance. Their countless deities could only be appeased through endless human sacrifices. The victim's heart, which was still beating, lay in the hand of the murderous priest.
We did hear about the ritual sacrifices before.
The interior of the temple was surprisingly cool. The weight of our armor, our exhaustion, even the burden of our suffering, they were all banished by a sense of awe that the crudely magnificent altar instilled. In the tomb-like silence, a deep voice chanted an incantation. The majestic statue of the water goddess, Chalchihuitlicue, seemed to throb with vitality.
You couldn't pay me to try and pronounce that.
This massive stone, draped in a golden cloak and studded with precious stones, was coming to life before our very eyes.
I remember this part of the road to El Dorado.
Horror of horrors! The granite eyes of the statue, empty of life only moments before, were now injected with blood. We staggered back in amazement. Dom Jose was taken by a fit of convulsions. He tried to raise up his crucifix, as if to ward off an attack by demons. The heathen priest laughed cruelly. The statue's mouth cracked open in a deathly grin, bearing teeth sharpened to dagger points. Captain Cortez cried, "Attack!" But it was no use. We were glued to the spot. First, we were unable to move. Our armor seemed to be bolted to the temple floor. Our legs weakened, and we collapsed in a thunder of steel. Only Cortez had the presence of mind to unsheath his dagger. He hurled it at the cackling priest. 4 inches of the finest Toledo steel buried itself in the heathen's face. His blood spurted, splashing the now lifeless idol. We picked ourselves up with difficulty. Never will I forget that terrible moment. My companions, naturally enough, told tales of devilish enchantments cast upon our armor. Whatever the truth of that, I could not deny that the supreme god of the 4th universe had treated us as mere playthings. I am convinced that a terrible energy is yet contained within that heathen statue. A power strong enough to change a proud conquistador into a helpless puppet.
I'm not sure what the supreme god of the 4th universe is actually a reference to. I would assume it is a specific Lovecraftian deity, but I haven't heard that one before.
Drawing of Chalchihuitlicue by Dom Jose de la Sierra, done before the destruction of the Aztec temple of Tenochtitlan.
And that's our clue. So, suit of armor? Heavy statue. Suck it! Hey, free sword. Nice and snazzy. Basically the same as the other one, except this one doesn't break. Let's check out those other books.
Unfinished chapter of Terra Incognita by Jacob Van Ostade. A hitherto unpublished fragment of the manuscript unearthed following indications furnished in the Vatican Library's Expurgatory Index.
The following passage has not been approved by the Vatican.
In those icy and unwelcoming lands, the rites of wizards and healers are deeply rooted in ancient legend. Mysterious and cruel beings are thought to have ruled over the Arctic plains in times past. A cursed city, enclosed by massive walls, is believed to stand to this day. It contains fabulous treasures and is inhabited by the degenerate descendants of those who instilled centuries of terror in the hearts of the people.
I'm not sure if I've actually read the Call of Cthulhu. I think I might have tried. I have read like a couple of Lovecraft books back in my bookworm days, but I'm iffy on the details. I should have probably went to the library and read some, but I have videos to make, so here we are.
These people, naturally placid, are seized with rage and horror at the very mention of the prisoners of the ice. Were these dreadful captives to be freed from their frozen cells, they would reap a horrifying tribute of human flesh. These blood-curdling beings may be invoked by certain ritual words. They can even be controlled, albeit with the greatest of difficulty. I admit to being impressed by these tales, repeated to me on many occasions and in a number of different places during my travels in the region. I have also seen troubling cult objects, sculpted in a material unknown to me. Another remarkable fact is that local Eskimos experience great distaste in pronouncing certain words, and invariably avoid saying them.
Like me with the statue, or any number of complicated Japanese surnames.
Here is a living example of the power that words contain. As it is said in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word.
Not sure where that is actually going. I also haven't read the Bible in a while, if you can believe that.
If Rocks Could Talk, or The Story of a Louisiana Plantation by the Marquise de Chamfray.
Oh, this'll be good.
After the criminal selling off of Florida by the foul usurper, my father elected to remain in this inhospitable land, where we were free at least to express our royalist feelings, and hope our country would come to its senses. In 1818, a certain Pickford bought up Ledoux's land, after the poor fellow had ruined himself in unfortunate speculation. Pickford soon turned out to be the most loathsome human we had ever encountered. He was an adventurer of the worst kind, nouveau riche, and bloated with a grotesque sense of self-importance. First came the incessant army of men with shovels, digging into the mountain of earth that was to fill in the surrounding swamp. The undertaking was quite stupendous. We learned from a slave that the final objective was to connect the existing caves with another one of gigantic proportions.
I'll say, I don't really know much about what sort of influence the French would have had on the US at this time. Because I know there was some squabbling around the area at the time, for one reason or another. But I'm thinking more about the British and, of course, the Canadians up north. But what would the French be doing in Louisiana?
Racked by a mania of persecution, Elia Pickford constantly fired his workers and hired new ones. He did all he could to keep anyone from learning about his plans. My father was amused and said, "The poor fool will end up getting lost in his own cave." But the walls went up, and tongues started wagging. Our detestable neighbor had been a sailor, a ruffian grown rich on questionable trade. Distasteful stories were told of him.
And here are just some blueprints that kinda tell me nothing. I'm not sure I can even map this correctly. I think the lower left would be the kitchen, maybe? On the middle is the living room. Yeah, this is the first floor.
When the work was finished, Pickford invited us to the opening of his rambling mansion, which he named Derceto. My father asked what the strange name meant. Pickford answered, "Derceto reminds me of Astarte, the fertility goddess. Around here, the name is Shub-Niggurath. I believe that a name so steeped in evil should be said aloud came as not such a shock to my father, as he himself confided in me some while later."
You have to be a certain kind of guy to not only name your fancy new mansion after a Lovecraftian deity, but the black goat of the wood with 1,000 young in particular.
We left immediately.
Understandable.
In June of 1862, Derceto was burned down in unexplained circumstances. It was undoubtedly the deed of some jealous Yankee or another. It was amazing to watch the servants rushing into the flames to try and save their bullet-riddled master. After that terrible night, Derceto fell into ruin. Its blackened walls were soon overgrown, as human-built works always are, by ever-present nature. In 1875, the property was eventually bought by a gentleman whose name was Howard Artwood. I was sorry that my father, who delighted in fine conversation, was no longer alive to enjoy the company of this new neighbor. Learned and well-versed in history, he had made a particular study of piracy. It was Artwood who told me that Pickford had commanded a ship that flew the flag of piracy. That explained the scoundrel's great wealth.
And who do we know is a pirate?
Artwood was fascinated by Pickford and undertook a great deal of research in an attempt to find some treasures that he was convinced the pirate had hidden. He went through the ruins inch by inch. He then had the burnt-out house rebuilt exactly as it had been, and refurbished the library that had miraculously escaped the flames on the night of the Great Fire.
So the library is actually the original. And that explains the collection of books that his son would then find later on, that we read about in his diary.
Artwood set about studying every volume in that library, and often talked to me of his research. He was a handsome widower, deeply attached to his son Jeremy, who was later to become a professional artist.
So we basically have the entire timeline now. We have Pregst, who built the mansion and expanded the caves. And then he got killed. And then it's Howard Hartwood took over, rebuilt the place, and began studying it.
Artwood worked incessantly, first from the room I offered him, then from his own freshly restored home, which he rebaptized Derceto. I imagine he hoped to enlist the help of the god of good fortune in his treasure hunt. As far as I have ever been able to tell, all his searching came to nothing. There were no lost treasures to be found at Derceto. I learned of Artwood's death while I was in Paris. But that, as they say, is another story.
Very interesting. So we have most of the pieces now. There is a little bit more to discover, but then the story is over and the game is won. There we go. Let's go back. No. Haha, I got the run to work on accident. Let's go back down here and check out the dining room. And I'm going to save because there be zombies around here. So first of all, let's have some fun. I said fun. Any more takers? Let's try out this sword. It's a good one. What about my gun? Oh, that's awesome. Never mind. I feel like this isn't how it's supposed to go, but... So I swear the arms actually have their own collision. Last one. That's that. Cost me a bit of health and some bullets, but it's done. That was actually the biggest fight in the game, more or less. But there is another way to deal with it. So if I instead run to the table and then place the pot of soup, because they're zombies. Place, there. And that causes all of the other ones to reset. And they just take a seat. This is probably one of the more obtuse things in the game. But it is optional, as I just showed you. It didn't even take that much ammo and stuff. But I still have 34 health. Just to be safe, let me reload again and do that one faster. There we go. Every hit point matters when you only have 35 of them. Especially for the nonsense that's over here. Nothing. Yeah, I think this place is just empty. Did you see that? That stuff is dangerous. So, I have 35 hit points. This is an evil cigar, guarding a lighter. That was 5 health. I think the zombie took 1 health from me? It's really bad. Like, turbo bad. And it's just like an AoE mine? I mean, I appreciate the message, but 5 health in a single puff. Ridiculous. So instead, let's put out the flame. The evil is defeated. Yeah, this thing is coded like an enemy, apparently, which is just hilarious to me. But we did get our customary survival horror lighter, so that's cool. Let's poke around in here. Record and a book. And a locked door. Now that I have my atmosphere back. So, I can keep the record for the time being. Let's check out that book.
Memories by Alistair Boleskine. Printed in London, A. Machin, editor. 1833.
So here's your big tease for Shadow the Comet.
It was during a conversation with G that one first heard of the New England fishing village of I. The area was apparently the ideal place from which to witness unusual phenomena in space. The quality of the air, along with the conjunction of several favorable factors, made one impatient to get started. Having gleaned what information one could from the British Museum, one set off with all haste.
So it's not the fishing village of Innsmouth, it's Ilsmouth in the game for whatever reason, which... Why even be that cute and not just make it the actual village? I should probably play that game.
One's work on space and comets in particular had met with a warm response, and one thought it judicious to include several original sketches of the phenomenon, sketches which one felt were sure to arouse a great deal of keen interest in the scientific circles of 1834. One refers naturally to the passage of Halley's comet.
Editor's note: Lord Boleskin's memoirs end at this point. Who knows what extraordinary contributions he might still have made had he not succumbed during his visit to New England to dementia, followed by an early death in St. Andrew's Hospital.
So to find out more about that, you play Shadow of the Comet. But we have more important things at hand. Like getting rid of this book. And then it's party time. Holy shit, it's Priggs the Pirate, and he is coming right at me. Yeah, welcome to the game's only proper boss fight. This is about as complicated as it looks. I don't know what the parry is supposed to do. It probably is just to back off, which is stupid because you wanna... Come on! Yeah, clash. Come on, go back. Yeah, yeah. Get cornered. Yeah, that's the strategy. You spam one side, get him to block. There he goes. So, why was the body of a pirate who got shot to death like 100 years ago still here? Who knows? But he gives us a key. And one final book. A lot of reading to be done here. We can call it an episode after that.
Demonia Particularis, Signs and Rituals, by Heinrich Cassel, Ring Publications.
This'll be a good one.
The ritual of invocation demands that the officiant be pure. We have already described the complex operations to be followed in order to call those that sleep in superior dimensions. We shall, for the present, limit ourselves to the sign of mutual recognition used amongst their number by adepts of the cult of the Old Ones. The sign also serves as protection when in the presence of a servant of evil. The sign resembles a blessing, save that the first and little fingers are both folded beneath the thumb, whilst the second and third fingers are held up. It would appear
that this sign has no effect on adepts of a certain rank with knowledge of particular secrets contained in the corpus demonicus. The use of such signs is not without considerable risk to the user during any attempt to call upon those from without.
Great term. Just a bit of flavor, that one. Not actually related to a puzzle. But we have some other weird ritual stuff to get up to. But that's for next time. Until then, farewell.